Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Charlton Live, sponsored by PSF Steel Limited. My name is Louis Mendez. Hope you guys are all doing okay on your Thursday evening. This is, of course, the big match preview where we will be looking ahead to Saturday's trip up to Birmingham. But, of course, we'll be looking back at the defeat against Middlesbrough in midweek. And first of all, in a few moments' time, we'll be speaking about, obviously, what happened last Saturday and the loss of headphones norm, which I know has affected everyone very, very deeply over the last few days. So welcome to the show. I hope you can share your feelings with us this evening. Joining me to do all those things, first up top right, Sue Gallop. How you doing, Sue?
I am not too bad. I'm doing much better. It's nice to be back, and it was nice to be there Tuesday night to pay my respects. So yeah, all good.
Yeah, thanks. So yeah, it's good to have you back. Also, bottom right of the screen is Mark Newbury. How you doing, Mark?
Yeah, pretty much the same as Sue. You know, you're processing at the moment. You're processing everything.
Yeah, definitely. And then in the bottom left of the screen is Tom Willing. How you doing, Tom?
Yeah, much the same. I think processing is the right word. It was very strange week, hasn't it? Difficult week. Yeah, it's an interesting one, but doing all right.
Thank you. Yeah, good stuff. Good evening to everyone joining us in the chat as well. Give us your thoughts this evening. Like I say, on the two games that we're talking about, but I'm sure a lot of you might want to share your feelings about Norman as well, which Sam was the first one in there and did, despite the defeat on Tuesday. The tribute for Norman was unbelievable, and massive thanks as well to Middlesbrough for paying their respects as well. So we'll talk about the games later on. We're going to hear from Nathan Jones. We've got a Birmingham fan who's going to join us later on, Mark from the Tilton Talk Show, who apparently his nickname is The Row, but I feel like I'm being set up for some sort of joke there by the pod, but maybe we'll ask him when he comes on if that is actually his nickname or if someone's just trying to mug him off. But we'll talk to Mark from the Tilton Talk pod later on in the show as well as we gear up for Saturday. Obviously, it was a defeat on Tuesday night, but it did pale into insignificance, I think, for a lot of Charlton fans after what happened last Saturday at the Valley when we lost one of our own. You know, someone everyone knew to an extent. You know, on a nod and say hello basis, perhaps. Obviously his close friends know him better than we did, but headphones Norm, as we've known him for so long. Obviously, what happened last Saturday was hugely tragic and very traumatic for a lot of us inside the stadium. I think we can address that was quite traumatic for us to watch as well. But the first thing I want to do is obviously pay respects to Norm. A super fan, a nice bloke. I said it on the radio on Tuesday. I don't think anyone said it enough yet, but he was so cool as well. His dress sense, like he pulled that off. Like I could never pull that off, but that's sort of why he got a bit of notoriety, because he was himself and his, I don't know, his uniform, his clobber, as John put it on the telly the other day, which was the right way. But it was his sort of signature look, and man, I think he reminded a lot of us of like the area of London we live in as well, which I think is an important part. And the way he spoke about when he moved to Woolwich and immediately became one of us and a Charlton fan. I think there's lots about Norm that people sort of saw in themselves, maybe, like I say, other than the style, which I could never pull off in a million years. But he was a very friendly guy. And you know, he was obviously a massive part of the Charlton family. I think Seb's death and Norman's death both happening within the space of 5 years, and we probably arguably lost two of our most infamous fans. And it was particularly difficult, obviously, with Norman because we were there and we watched it, and that was very, very difficult. So I found that very, very hard, and I'm sure a lot of you did as well. Sue, I don't know if you just want to share some of your feelings about Norm, or you know, I mean, the club have been immaculate over the last few days, the way they've organised some of the tributes. Everyone who's spoken on the TV, from the fans and Harry Lowe, who did some bits on BBC London as well, from BBC London. They've really given him his dues. But I thought, you know, if you want to share some thoughts about Norman and how difficult it was last weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't at the game, but multiple people were ringing me, and I was watching it on the TV, and the minute we kind of became aware of who it was like, no, it can't be. And then when it was confirmed, it's just devastating, because like you say, he is one of us. I'd say he's probably a bigger fan than I've ever been in my life. I can remember him when I was a kid going to Selhurst and Upton Park. So he's always been a constant for me. And I think that's part of, I don't know how you can, I'm trying to think of a comparison. It was almost like, it is like we're losing one of your family, because when we gathered around where the flowers were on Tuesday night, all of us, it was so apparent that we have lost one of our family, and how everyone was comforting each other and talking about Norm and our little stories. And I sort of said, when I was lucky enough to attend the Hall of Fame induction, when Norm got his award for Fan of the Year, and I was so excited for him, because I was like, he deserves this so much. Out of all the fans that have ever got this award, I feel like Norm deserved it the most, because we don't know how many games he's been to, thousands and thousands of games, but he weren't the kind of guy that went, oh, I've been to 2,000 games. He just went, and people would say hello, all right, and always so friendly. And I think that's why, again, we felt so devastated at the loss, because he's one of us. He's one of our family. He's a constant. I've read loads of people about going, I knew I was going the right way when I saw Norm on the train or the bus, for like away games and things like that. It felt like home when you saw Norm. There's that sense of comfort. Right, I'm home. And I'm not exaggerating that at all, because I think a lot of people will sort of feel the way I feel about it at the moment. It's just so sad. But again, I've read a lot about, well, if he was going to go anywhere, he would have wanted it to have been there, and it was too soon. He's too young, but if it was going to be anywhere, it was going to be at the place that he loved, and probably had some of the most joyous moments of his life. So yeah, but I mean, him getting that award, like I say, and Nathan presenting it to him, and I've had ex-players message and go, "Wow, it's so sad," because they all recognise him and know him as well. So, yeah, it's I don't know what else to say really. It's just a massive loss.
Yeah, we're going to hear from Lloyd Jones and Nathan Jones in a few moments' time, Mark. But I'd like to say I want to touch on the reaction from the club, the fans, the players, the people who laid items behind the cupboard end. You know, immediately on Saturday. You know, it was really difficult on Saturday because, as I said, like, we all knew who it was happening to immediately. That was one of the strange things, because it was such an infamous character. We were watching it happen in real time. Like, I already knew it was Norm before the game had even stopped playing. Like, they were still playing football, and like, I've been told Norm. It's, you know, and so that was very, very difficult for us, and it did make it a lot harder. Which I think Ed Warwick sort of addressed that quite nicely in the ITV piece, which I only watched today. But he did say, you know, there's 18,000 people there who watched someone they really respect, you know, pass away, unfortunately, as well. So I think it is worth taking that into account, that did happen to us. And whilst we're all sitting here and we are talking about Norm because we had huge respect for him and we really liked him, it's also fair to understand that it was quite hard for all of us as well.
Yeah, I mean, someone passing at any time is a difficult thing. And when it's someone who's been in your life in a way, like Sue says, it's like a family member, because those of us who, like I say, who've been to Selhurst and been to Upton Park, and there was always a face you'd see. And the club, I think, have really shown themselves in an exemplary light in the way they've handled it, the way they've offered help. It's funny because a few weeks ago I'd been taking my boys. Now, you know, I've started taking my boys regularly this season to football, and we were going up to the shops in Thamesmead where I live, and Norm came out and passed us, and it's sort of like, you know, he just is normal strolling, there he goes. And I said to my boys, you know who that is, and explained to them as we were going to the shops who it was, why he was such a legend for Charlton fans, and so if you imagine 2 7-year-olds with their mouths wide open as I explained about him, going all over the country and looking the same, and you'd always know with his hat and his earphones, and it was almost a comfort to see him at games sometimes, and it is that kind of thing. So when he passed, and I was talking to my boys and showing them the photos, they're like, "We saw him." And I'm like, "Yeah," I said, and explained about it all, and they're very sad because it's this kind of like passing is as a new experience to a child, but those of us, thousands of Charlton fans who knew him, it's never easy to deal with kind of grief, and the fact that the club chaplain has made himself available to people, and they've put out, I think it's the Mind phone number to say people who have been affected by it, and I would encourage people, if they are feeling a bit unsure, no one's going to mock them for taking up the offer of using it, and they might find talking to someone will help them deal with it themselves. And like I say, the way the club were, and Boro as well, I thought have really shown themselves in the respect for the applause, for the pre of it. I mean, I know it's been mentioned about Luke Ayling as he was walking down the touchline, stopping to say a few words to the family. And I just think there's some class things going on in such a sad time. And it just almost sort of like, it doesn't help you deal with it, but it helps you understand the grief a little better. And
yeah. One other, I mean, we'll talk about the Middlesbrough fans in a second, actually, once we hear from Nathan Jones, because I think that's important as well. But Paul says Norm was always an enigma to me as a kid, in a good way. You'd see him about and kind of be in awe of him, just so unapologetically himself, and that's the perfect way of putting it. We're sort of, the first time I spoke to Norm, which is mad because it was 20 years ago, I worked it out the other day. It was on the way back from a game at Highbury, which obviously doesn't exist anymore. But it was just that. He was at London Bridge. He got beat 3-0, and I was like, "It's Norm there." And I obviously had a Charlton show, and I was like, "I'm going to go and speak to him." So I spoke to him. We shared a 30-second chat about how we'd lost the game and he weren't happy and stuff. It was like, wow, I was so nervous. Like, it was like going up to speak to a celebrity, and he was unapologetically himself, is a great way of putting it. And Jane says Norm was the very best of us. Let's hear what the Addicts defender Lloyd Jones and the Addicts manager Nathan Jones both made of the tributes paid to Norm on Tuesday night.
Loyal fan, come to home and away. That's why we, before the game, went and played our respects as a team. We thought it was right, and I thought our supporters were brilliant on the 13th minute, and I just thought it was brilliant.
A real poignant tribute, a touch of class from our football club in terms of how we organised it, and then a credit to the Middlesbrough fans as well, who were truly outstanding. And not all fans are like that, and not all fans would have been as respectful and just as inclusive as that. So look, we thank them, but we know that they're a class football club anyway. And it's just, a touching moment, really. We've lost one of our family. His family were there. I know the family has said it was a fitting way to go, if you like, but it's very difficult to say that or to think that, because obviously they've lost someone very dear to them.
There we go. Nathan obviously referencing the fact that Norman's family were there for the minute's applause on Tuesday night as well, which was just a hugely emotional moment, Tom. Nathan obviously mentioned the Middlesbrough fans, and as Mark said, Luke Ayling, and I saw him do it, so I know he spoke to the family, which was really. I know he's a good guy because he was on that Leeds documentary, wasn't he? He was shown to be a good guy then as well. But Nathan came out to bat for us a little bit there with the comment about how not all fans are like that, because it really needs saying that the Portsmouth fans who've got the donations going and stuff are a credit to their club, but a minority of their fans on Saturday, they made it a lot harder because they were a disgrace, an absolute disgrace.
Saturday was obviously just difficult for so many reasons, and when you're there and you get the sense that this is happening and this guy's dying in front of you, whether he survived or not, that's happening at the time. And so I don't know, I felt anyway, and I can't speak for everybody, but I felt like you almost want to start paying your respects at that point. And so the ground was so silent for most of it, while everybody sorts of figures out what the hell's going on here. And obviously Dave Lockwood is working with the referee and like all the logistics of something like this happening to try and communicate that. And I thought actually the club did it as well as they could. And I think given the circumstance, there was absolutely no way the game could continue when they'd been off for that amount of time and when we found out what had happened. And for large parts of that, and obviously for a lot of it, lots of the Portsmouth fans were good, but for large parts of it, the whole group were. But certainly towards that latter half, to sing the things they did, it's not just disrespectful. It's disgusting. It's really, really horrible. And obviously was back at the game on Tuesday and talking to the people around me, and someone was saying, "Oh, I've read on a forum about that they couldn't hear the tannoy in that stand." Well, we sit in the North Lower. I luckily couldn't see too much of what was happening, but I knew what was happening. Tannoy's rubbish there, but you know what's happening, and they can see it from where they are. They're looking directly over there, so you can't tell me they haven't seen what's going on. And does the fact that you've had to pay a train fare or a coach fare, I know football's expensive and I know they've travelled a long way early, but none of that matters when something like this happens. And then from what I read and heard, there were sort of little aggressive things then after the game as well. Even just leaving the game and walking up Ransom Walk, they were singing Play Up Pompey and stuff. And it felt disrespectful. And maybe those people singing that at that point weren't trying to be, but it just felt it. You wouldn't do that coming out of a funeral or something. It almost felt like that. We've just seen what's happened happen. And I just thought it was absolutely disgraceful. And of course, it's not all Portsmouth fans, but the group that are there should absolutely be picked out and criticised for that. I don't know if there's any way to punish it. There probably isn't, but they deserve the criticism because, that is not on. And as you say, the Middlesbrough fans on Tuesday were exemplary, and a huge proportion of the Portsmouth fans were. So as I say, I don't want to lump them all here then, but when you're trying to deal with something that's happening like that in real time, both logistically, as I say, for the club, but also emotionally for all of us in the stand, it just then starts suddenly when you hear that, you're like, do I start shouting back? Do I start defending Norman and our club here? Do I keep quiet because I'm trying to be respectful? It just became a very difficult situation, which, as I say, I thought the club handled well with no help from those Portsmouth fans.
I mean, it was quite clear once the game had been abandoned what sort of situation we were in. So when I was walking up Floyd Road after the game and I encountered arguably Portsmouth's most famous fan, and I know he's not universally liked, and I'm not going to name any names here, obviously, but some of the stuff he was saying when I was walking up Floyd Road, I don't think he should be allowed back at the Valley again. But like I said, I'm not going to name any names. Right, let's look back at the game on Tuesday. We lost against Middlesbrough, obviously, but I was just glad to have a game of football, to be honest. Let's have a listen back to the goals from Tuesday night.
Is it for Gillespie up to Carey again? Again, it's a poor first touch and invites pressure, which Middlesbrough win the ball back. Bergzorg, low ball in, looks for McGree, and Middlesbrough take the lead. Riley McGree gives the visitors a deserved lead, has to be said, after 33 minutes. Loose touch from Carey. Middlesbrough broke on the right-hand side, nice little pullback. And Riley McGree scores.
Yeah. And again, you have to look at how that's come. We've just had a let-off, not moments ago, on a turnover into Carey, with a great save low down from Kaminski, and we're guilty not less than 30 seconds later of not clearing our lines again.
First time ball in the box, has taken a couple of deflections en route, might find Campbell at the far post, and Britton is first to it, much to the frustration of Charlton, and now Middlesbrough can break, and they've got bodies to do so. McGree, the goal scorer, running forward, looks for the ball towards Whittaker. Whittaker bearing down on goal and finishes, and Middlesbrough do get their second just before half-time.
That is devastating in terms of the goal they've just created. We've got a promising opportunity down this right-hand side with Lieben in behind target. And when that ball drops to Campbell on the far side, there's only one person coming out of that. Britain's determination to make sure that doesn't get to Campbell leads to the turnover. It leads to their fullback driving out And if you want to see intelligence, football intelligence, most players would have played that ball down the line, in behind, to their centre forward who'd made a decent run. And Britain plays it inside into, I think, McGree, who then turns and breaks down that right-hand side. McGree's ball is absolutely perfectly weighted in front of Whittaker to take it in his stride, which gives the defender no chance to recover. And then the striker cross goal gives Middlesbrough that little cushion and that 2-0 lead.
Across to Jones, ball forward to Nipar in space in the centre circle. He's going to attack Jones, who does well to put a foot in and win it back for Charlton. Trying to release Apter on the right-hand side. Apter taking on Jones of Middlesbrough towards the penalty area. Apter, ball across, and it's an own goal. Headed in by Edmondson, and the drilled cross from Apter. Edmondson felt he had to deal with it, and he heads it into his own goal.
Yeah, and what I really like about Apter is he was shown the channel, and we all know he likes to cut back inside on that left foot, but he was showed so much of the channel that he was confident enough to drag it down the side onto his right foot and zip it near post. Lee Burn in close proximity, and I think the goalkeeper's put the defender off, and it's bounced off him and into the back of the net.
So there we go, 2-1 defeat against Boro at the Valley, makes it 5 defeats on the spin, Sue. I would have taken a 2-1 defeat at half-time. Honestly thought it was going to be 3 or 4 at that point. They ripped us to shreds in that first half. Bit of a fight back in the second half, particularly in the last 20 minutes or so. And on another day, maybe we get a point with Alafe's chance. But it's a really difficult moment for us at the moment. And a very good Middlesbrough side. We play some good teams at the moment, but we're not finding a way to even pick up a point, and that will be a concern for Nathan.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always in the camp of not getting over dramatic or panicking too much, and I think the injuries that we've had have been so key in the score lines in particular. But I think we just look a little bit lost at the minute. We're putting what's the saying, square pegs into round holes to a certain extent, and I think no one's really to blame, because you can't compensate for having 5 of your first team out injured at the same time that would be your starters. I think the disappointment for me has been more in the players that have come in, where we've sort of, well, me particularly, banged on about strength and depth that we had in the squad. That's not really showing, because the players that are coming in are not necessarily showing the level of quality that we need. On the other hand, like you say, the opponents that we've had more recently are just full of quality, are well-established championship sides, have come down from the Premier League, have got players that have played in the Prem and done well there. So we're, to a certain extent, still quite a few League One players in our team, and some of them are maybe not up to that step up. But we haven't got anyone to fill those gaps at the moment. So I do feel for Nathan, and I feel for the players, because you can't plan for that amount of injuries in that short amount of time.
Yeah, well, I mean, our left-hand side has been decimated, obviously, with Edwards and Amari Bell out. Spam saying losing Bell and Burke is a disaster. Macca doesn't have, he says he doesn't have the pace for League One, let alone the Championship. I mean, when Macca's playing, needing to deal with the aerial crosses and stuff in the left centre-back role, and he's got Amari in front of him, then he's been fine this season. But obviously, since we've lost that protection down the left-hand side, that it has become an issue for him. Funnily enough, I thought both him and Jones, because it took 34 minutes to concede on Tuesday night, which was a lot longer than it felt like it was going to be at stages. But there was a couple of times I saw both Macca and Jones had dealt with a couple of crosses. I was like, okay, we try and give it here, but we are clearly vulnerable in certain areas of the pitch. The midfield was ran through at times in the first half. Carey losing the ball twice in the space of a minute for the first goal as well. I mean, because we ain't got as much time to talk about the game this time, obviously. I just wonder if there's one element you really want to focus in on, Mark, because I know a lot of people want to talk about the second goal and how it sort of starts off with us not winning the challenge in the penalty areas, and TC just doesn't have that fight for that ball at that point. You know, I think if you attack that cross, I think there's every chance you get there first and you get taken out by a defender who's had to make an aerial challenge, or maybe you bring the ball down, or you know what, flatten him. Who cares? You know, do something. But TC didn't then, and then obviously there's still a lot of time between the ball going down the other end and going in. But it does start with that. Ends with Kaminsky arguably being beaten at his near post, although people say like he's probably expecting a cross sort of thing. But yeah, that was that both goals really came from bits that we could have done better, which is going to be the case for a lot of goals. But yeah, it's annoying that a side like Middlesbrough, who have the quality to turn it on in an instance, we arguably didn't make them work as hard for their goals as they should have.
No, their guy wanted it more, which I don't think he can accept. Their right back, once he's headed it past, he then runs 40 yards, threads a pass. Kaminsky being beaten at the near post, like he's made 2 fantastic saves. We could have been 4-0 down. I think it's really noticeable. And Southampton, Stoke and Boro themselves have shown that if you stay disciplined, that you will get rewards against us. And I mean that because they put players in a position who don't get drawn in to the ball. So there's always an out pass. And I think it was obvious on Tuesday in that first half that we were being spread around because we were sort of like Coventry was running after people, Nib was running after people. Their players weren't really moving because they knew that, right, he's going to be over there. So if I first touch it and pass to him, boom, it's going to cut out 2 Charlton shirts straight away. And then the fact that they could get so many shots off against us, it's team discipline. And I don't know whether it's just inexperience or confusion about for what their roles are going to be. And once the guy's going and he's gone the other side of Macca and he's scored something like 5 goals in 5 games, their striker, and it's a good hard shot. Second half, I thought we had a bit more energy, a bit more bite, a bit more fight. I thought Anderson made a difference. I thought Fuller made a difference. But by then, you don't know. Boro's 2-0 up. They don't really have to do much. Once they've conceded 1, could we have got another one if Tanto had a bit more calmness about him? You know, Tanto was bought for the future. But it was really noticeable, especially the way they play football, Boro, and they can pass the ball around well. They sucked us in and passed through us, and things like teams of watching our games and saying, "Hey, what was successful for Southampton? What was successful for Stoke? They're going to watch this game and say, how did Boro do it? You know what? It's draw the people in because at one time we've got 5 in one half, 5 in the other, and that 5 pressing up front, the press isn't good enough because the ball's just being passed straight through them, and then our defence is all over the shop, to be quite honest. And with our first one, you know, Ramsey's gone down and it's someone on the edge of the area, but Coventry's slow to watch it. You know, Carey's giving the ball away, but you don't know. It's a concentration and discipline thing. And unfortunately, the teams we've played recently who have beaten us heavily have got discipline and concentration, which we don't have.
Excellent stuff. Right, we made a triple sub at half-time, Tom. So Fuller, Doherty and Anderson came on to try and, I guess, particularly add a bit more steel to the midfield. And obviously Anderson got people up with that challenge right at the start of the second half. A lot of energy from Anderson. But you know, people will look at the sub of Rob Apter coming on later on 78 minutes because pretty much I think it was his first touch where he put the cross in for the own goal from George Edmondson. And you know, I mean, considering we ain't been that creative over the last few weeks, put it lightly, you know, there has been a lot of calls for a player who can create stuff like Rob Apter to come in. So you want your subs to do that. That's exactly what you want him to do. You want him to come on and put in a decent cross and force an error and score and get us a goal because you want them to make an impact. And that's what he's done. So doing that is going to give Nathan a decision to make over the next few weeks.
You'd hope so. But I'd also feel like Nathan knows that he can do that sort of stuff because he saw him do it. He was our player of the month in August. So he knows he's capable. So then the question is, why is he not picking him? And we were joking that even if he doesn't play again for the rest of the month, he might win player of the month for December just for that. So, yeah, it's a really difficult one. For me, I take what Mark says about the discipline, but for me, the main reason we lost that game and the main reason we've lost the recent ones is the intensity. You can't tell me that Fuller in particular and Anderson are better Championship players than Harvey Knibbs, Sonny Carey and Connor Coventry. They're not better players, I wouldn't say. Maybe people will disagree. But they come on and they work hard and they press as a unit and they harry. And when we did that, we looked, as Lloyd Jones said after the game, we looked like we were in the early part of this season. But in that first half, we were so passive, so passive. And when you're going to be like that, as Mark was saying, teams just find it so easy to play around you. I thought the formation or the setup was wrong to start with, and obviously they had so much width. But ironically, it was when we changed it, they then scored. But they looked lazy. And I don't think these players are lazy. And I don't think Nathan Jones would let them be lazy. But they just look like it. And then players come on and just up the intensity. And suddenly we can match a team that are now second in the league. So I feel like it's there for us. I think Apter, as I say, we know what he offers going forward. Clearly, there's hesitations about what he can do behind him. And we're shipping a lot of goals at the moment. But if you can find a way to get him into that more attacking spot, because TC is not a wing-back either. And Nathan, despite all the criticism of TC, has no problem dropping him into wing-back, possibly out of necessity, but still. So I just find, look, I'll defend Nathan Jones as long as he's here because I love the guy. But I find some of the things he's doing at the moment a little bit baffling. And I appreciate he's got one of his hands tied behind his back a little bit. But I also think maybe he just feels a little bit lost with this team at the moment because he knows what his best 11 is, I think, now. He knows how he wants them to play, and maybe he just feels like he can't at the moment. But it was frustrating. The first half was really frustrating, maybe more so. Second half, I was encouraged. I thought that looked a bit more like us. And I think we've got out, just about out. I think Birmingham will be tough, but then we've got a run of games. I'm not saying Oxford or Portsmouth, the return game, or Norwich are going to be pushovers. But there are games I expect us to compete in, and I expect us to at least try and go for a draw. Whereas I think if we'd have lost 2-0 to Middlesbrough or 2-1 to Middlesbrough at any point in the season, even when we're on a good run, you go, okay, so there's green shoots there. I'm largely thinking we'll still be okay. But I think the selection headaches for Nathan at the moment are still bad headaches as opposed to the good ones he was having at the start of the season. And until that's sorted, which hopefully it will be in January, you know, it is still going to be a little bit up and down. And we've just got to solidify, keep the intensity up and just try and get one of those games over the line because I think they've got it in them.
Yeah, Kevin says he felt that Tyrese bottled it for the second goal. Andrew, though, said that he was waiting for the ball to come to him. He's taken stick, but I don't think he was aware of the defender coming. Stuart says Alafe couldn't hit a barn door with a tanto. Which sounds a bit like banjo, I guess. It does. I think it works. But yeah, the chance for Tanto at the end, like he was very Tanto Alafe. Like he brought the ball down well. Very bustling. I like that about Tanto, but then his finish was also what we've sort of come to expect from him a little bit so far, you know, and what we were told to expect from him, and what the coaching staff will try and work on with him, of course. Yeah, Gary said the game changers made a big difference. Ed said I hadn't seen a dip in form from Connor Coventry before, but he's come back from internationals and feels like he's lost something. A couple of people saying they feel like Apter's not really a Nathan Jones type of player. Spam and Stuart have both said that. Right, well, let's have a listen then to Nathan Jones after the defeat against Middlesbrough on Tuesday night.
Disappointed with elements of the first half. Kept giving the ball away. When you keep giving the ball away, these are a good side, you know, an excellent side. We were aggressive against them. We picked a team to be really front-footed and try to win the ball off them. They've got Premier quality. They've got, you know, great resources. They've got a wonderful football team. They're well coached. So we knew it was going to be a tough night, especially with what we have missing. But, you know, overall, when we are us and when we are doing the basics far better and when we keep the ball better and we are a bit more aggressive and athletic, then we can compete with anyone at this league. And I think second half, you know, I thought we were really good and I thought we came into it. And to be fair, you know, they had to change to curtail us. We scored. We had other opportunities. Should have had a pen first half. I can't understand how that wasn't given. So look, we're in a tough moment. We played 4 of possibly the 5-6 best teams in the league, and it's been a tough run. But you know, we have to come through it.
Yeah, you made those 3 changes at half time. Is that what you thought gave you a little bit more impetus in the second half?
I categorically did. Now I don't want to speak badly of the ones we brought off, but we gave the ball away. We gave the ball away for the goal, but we gave it identically away a minute before. So we didn't learn from that. Then the second goal is the killer, really is, because we are attacking right before half time. We put a great ball in. It lands in the box. Our left wing back isn't there. Then their fullback goes past them far too easy. We don't stop the play. We're not aggressive enough, and then they break and score, and that was the killer goal, because chasing 2-0 lead, and if it's only one, then we equalise, and I fancy us to go on and win the game, as it was. They make changes, they see out the game, and we probably didn't demonstrate enough quality in the final third to punish them.
PSF Steel Limited is a trade supplier of steel fabrication and erection services to the new build, construction and refurbishment market in southern England. With their unrivaled depth of experience, they excel at providing their customers with high quality and cost-effective steel fabrication solutions. Their customers include national and regional house builders, such as Barratt Homes, Bellway Homes, the Vistry Group and Taylor Wimpey. They pride themselves on their service-based ethos and commitment to customer service excellence, which includes full technical backup and on-site services and support. If you would like more information, go to www.psfsteel.co.uk. That's www.psfsteel.co.uk.
Hello fellow addicts, I'm so excited to tell you all about our micropub, the River Ale House. The River Ale House is based in East Greenwich. It has 6 Pub of the Year awards, an ever-changing selection of amazing beer. It's owned by Charlton fans, walkable to the ground in just 20 minutes with buses that go direct to the Valley too. If your matchday routine includes a drink with your friends, you must join your fellow addicts in the River. See you soon.
Right, welcome back to Charlton Live. This is the big match preview on your Thursday evening. We've been looking back at the defeat against Middlesbrough. Now it is time to look ahead to Saturday's return to the second city to take on Birmingham City in the Championship now, rather than League One, of course, like we did last season. Delighted to say that Mark Adams joins us from the Tilton talk show. And Mark, the first question I have for you is, why is your nickname The Robe? Or is Craig in the chat having a laugh with me or something? Are you wearing a robe?
No, it's really weird. During COVID, for some reason, I started to wear a robe, and everyone said just keep it on, just have it as like a gimmick. So there you go. I can't afford my heating bill. I just want to quash the rumours. I can't afford my bills. It's just it's just like a little gimmick, really. So everyone calls me The Robe. So there you go. Simple as that.
Well, I'll refer to you exclusively as The Robe from now on. So The Robe. Tell us about your start to the season. Obviously, a late defeat in midweek at QPR, but overall happy with the start.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, Lewis, before I go on, can I just say really quick condolences and sort of heartfelt best wishes to your fan base, family and friends of Norman Barker. Just keep it on, Norm. Legend. So sorry, just had to get that out of the way. I mean, I'm fairly happy. I think most of us, there's a sort of narrative in pre-season that we'd storm the league and we'd buy our way back to the Prem and all the rest of it. But hand on heart, I think that was all the media. I think most Blues fans who have got a bit of sense of accept that we're probably mid-table this season. Possibly a playoff place if we're lucky, but yeah, I mean, I'm fairly happy. I mean, if we finish 12th, it's a solid platform, and we'll take it next season and invest again and move on. But I'm reasonably happy. We had a dodgy October. We had a few really nasty defeats, some really bad games. But I think Chris Davis is learning himself. He's a young man who's learning himself. He's a young manager, and it's sort of we're learning about him. He's learning about the demands of the Championship sort of thing. And it's all a learning process this season. Having said that, I mean, there's no reason why we can't put a few wins together and get into the playoffs. The only thing with us, it's our away form. It's just awful. I mean, at home we like Inter Milan, but away we like into the bin. It's just so bad away. And that's what's going to sort of cripple us probably. That's probably why I don't think this season we'll quite make it. But still progress.
Hi, Mark. I was actually going to ask you about what your expectations were for the season, but I think you've just sort of covered it in that part. But I mean, where realistically, when you're saying your away form's not that great, but your home form's a lot better, where are you looking to finish at the end of the season? What would the whole fan base be happy with in terms of finishing position?
I think top 10, to be honest. I think we can get in the top 10. It's been a good season. Like I said before, I mean, I don't know any Blues fan who thought we'd storm it and buy our way back to the promotion and all the rest of it. I think that was all a bit of a spin with the media, really. But yeah, I'd take top 10. I'll be happy with that. I think most fans, I know the ones who I personally know, would be happy with that. If we get to about 10th in January, February, and we're in that sort of pack for the playoffs, then maybe we can go for it. But yeah, I'll take top 10 this season. I think Chris Davis has got some credit in the bank, sort of thing. I think he'll get the season, but if we finish with a whimper, I think there's a chance he might be gone in the summer. I don't know. I don't know the Americans' way of thinking, but I'd like to think you get the whole season and then a top 10 finish. That's what I'd take.
Mark, we obviously played you a couple of times last year and got a win each. And I know a lot of the squad is still there. But what's the summer recruitment been like? And has there been any change in your playing style this year, or has Davis sort of dealt with the step up by playing much the same way that got you the success last year?
Yeah, I mean, much the same way, to be honest. I mean, like I say, the first couple of months, we had a couple of decent early results, but then it just fell apart. It was just sideways, no end product. It was boring. It wasn't good to watch, and we've had a few beatings along the way. And then something clicked in October. He just sort of, he changed it around a bit. He started on the front foot. Recruitment wise, we've brought like Kyogo, the ex-Celtic lad. He was in France last year and didn't really play a lot. He's likable and he runs about and he's skillful, but he hasn't scored in the league yet. He scored one goal. We've got Lewis Koumas on loan from Liverpool, who's been pretty average in midfield. He's out the side now. He can't really get a game. We've had Bright Samuel, the Nigerian lad. He's okay, not amazing. So on paper, these sort of signings have looked decent, but in reality, they've all faded pretty quickly. The one man who is an absolute star so far, we've got on loan from down the road at Wolves, is Doyle. Tommy Doyle. He's been absolutely Premier League quality, and I know a lot of Wolves fans are saying that they'd take him back tomorrow because he could step into their side. But I think any of us could, to be honest. I mean, they're stuck on 2 points. So yeah, I mean, Doyle's been an absolute star, and he's sort of he's a bit of a star. I mean, Iwata's been playing well. He played well last season. He's sort of filled in at right back the last few weeks, and he's coming to the fore again. So yeah, we've got some danger players all over the place. It's just getting them to gel sort of consistently. So yeah.
Hey Mark, great name. Right, is there going to be any kind of crumb of comfort? Because at home you're looking fantastic. Away, your intensity, and you've put lots of goals past lots of teams. Away, it's a different kettle of fish, but at home. So is there a crumb where you're thinking, where would you say that the weaknesses were in your side? Because I see goals all around, and the guys you've just mentioned, I think you've just got one of the hardest working midfields. So, but is there a crumb of comfort which you can say, well, possibly we could be a bit weak here, there, or do you just think at home you just look a different force?
It's a different force, Mark. But also, if I'm perfectly honest, I think as solid as we've been in the middle of defence, I think there's a bit of a lack of pace with Newman and Clara. They're both fantastic centre halves, but there's a bit of a lack of pace sometimes. And also, the big sort of question the last couple of weeks has been Beadle in goal. He's looked really dodgy. He started off on the bench. He was number 2 to Ryan Alsop. And then he got his chance. I don't even know why Alsop was dropped, if I'm honest with you. I think it was the week after we lost 3-0 at Coventry. Beadle's come in and he's really split the fan base. He can make some superb, shot stopping superb, but his distribution, and he's got a habit of parrying everything into the middle of the box. So I don't think he'll play. I think the penny's dropped with Davis. I think he'll drop him. But if he does play, then if I was one of your fans in the away end, I'd sort of rub my hands a little bit because he's just so unpredictable. I think I'd rather have Jeremy Beadle, to be honest.
I think the winning goal for QPR on Tuesday you'd expect Beadle to save that, I think. But yeah, that's the main one. Right, the Robe. Thank you for your time this evening. Been
That's
an
all
absolute
right.
pleasure having you on. Cheers for joining us, and well, good luck for the rest of the season.
And same to you guys. And I don't think you'll go down. To be fair, I think you'll have enough to stay up.
Fingers crossed. Cheers. Right. Cheers, Mark. Cheers, The Rope. Thanks for your time. There we go. That's The Rope from the Tilton Talk Show. Giving us a lowdown on Birmingham. Let's look ahead to the game from a Charlton point of view. Here's the Addicts boss, Nathan Jones.
How do we sort of work around and get back to winning ways?
Well, first and foremost, we have to do the basics. Be difficult to beat, as we have been for a year now. We've come away from that. Look, that again, not to repeat, because that cannot continue to be the narrative about. We've been depleted in certain areas. It's not like just the number of people out. It's just bang. We've had certain areas which we've had to compromise constantly on, and then with the strikers being out, the impact and that has really been detrimental to us. But what we have to do is find a way in these coming games until we get everyone back and we are back to full strength and back to a competitive edge of getting results, because time waits for no man. So it's all well and good saying, but we've got injuries, but we can't keep losing games either.
Just on those injuries, Anel Hernandez missed Tuesday's game with a hamstring injury. Is that likely to be a short-term layoff or something longer term?
Well, we'll have to see, but it's not days, it's weeks rather than days. It's unfortunate, but again, the situation we were in with what we've done, we've had to gamble on in the free agent market, and sometimes that's difficult because Championship's relentless, and to come from doing nothing to Championship football, then that does put a strain on your body.
And then just the regular question, just if any of the other injured players are closing in on a return?
Yeah, look, they're all a lot closer. It's just, because of the volume of ones we've had, they're trickling back. But look, in the coming weeks, we'll be in a considerably stronger position, and we actually look forward to that.
Travelled to Birmingham Saturday. We had some good games against them last season. How do you feel they've adapted to the Championship from what you've seen?
Yeah, look, they're a very good side. They're well coached. They've like everyone in the Championship pretty much. You have ups, you have good games, you have down games. They've won games. They've scored goals. They've scored. They had a spell where they scored 2 or 3 times 4 goals. So they're in decent form, but it's a Championship, and every game is different, poses a different test, but every game poses you a test.
What lessons, if any, can we learn from those games that we played against them last season?
Well, we will learn. We will learn from them. They were very tight games. The 2 league games were 1-0 wins each for the home team. Margins very, very small. There was very little in either game. We felt at home we were really good and could have probably won by more. We had some really glorious chances. They probably had more possession in the away game. It took an error from us for them to score. But they were tight games, and as I said, the respect levels there from us to them. But it's another Championship game that we're looking forward to.
There we go. That's Nathan looking ahead to Saturday's trip up to Birmingham City. Sue, I'm going to a couple of comments. Sai says more solid info from the boss. They're all a bit closer. Sam says getting a little bit tired of hearing Nathan say the injured places are close. The injured players are closer. Are they fit or are they not? He doesn't give much away with regards to that, does he? I think we're quite used to that. We know what to expect. What we did hear is that Hernandez is now added to the injury list, so it's another body that's not there to be in the team, which I guess makes it harder overall. But he's got to find a way to patch him up and go and get something. A really difficult place to go. I think on the ticker when the Road was with us, I had it down the bottom that Birmingham have lost 1 in their last 34 home games at St Andrews in the league. That's an incredible stat. Hopefully it'll be 2 in 35 on Saturday, but it's a big task to go there and do that.
I think even if we could pick up a point Saturday, that's going to boost the confidence a little bit with this run that we're on at the minute. But again, I've said earlier, I'm not going to overly panic about the previous results, the last 5 games. I guess it's a bit of a perfect storm in the respect that we've played the better sides in this league with a depleted squad. So I don't necessarily know if you can read too much into those results. Yeah, we've lost them, but there's contributing factors to that. I think we've also got to be really careful, haven't we, about rushing people back. And I get what people are saying about getting frustrated with the info from Nathan, but as we saw a couple of weeks ago, Mari came back in, got injured in that game, come off. We're going to lose him again for a period of time. So I think he's trying to really manage that expectation, but also make sure that when they do come back, they are completely fit. Because, like you say, we don't want to keep getting them coming back too early because we're desperate, and then they're out for longer. I think Birmingham's always a tough place to go. The crowd are amazing. They're just quite intimidating, I would say. One of the more intimidating places to go. So I think the lads have just got to get their head down, get in it, and just try and grind something out. Even if we're parking the bus, if it's a crap game, so be it. But if we can get at least a point out of it, I think that would be a good result.
Yeah, I mean, just anything to stop the rot at the moment. And, you know, it is difficult games, but you're going to have runs like this in the Championship, and you need to find a way to pick up points when you're not doing that. As Nathan referenced there, talk about Birmingham's home form. Luke said we had a similar home stat until a few games ago. If we're 4-0 up after 22 minutes on Saturday, then we'll say we're very, very similar to Birmingham with the way our home form ended. Gary says once we get the players back, we'll be all right, which I do still feel like that. You know, I think when we were us, you know, at the start of the season where we had Amari playing and you know, Kelman doing the pressing and that, we did have a way to be competitive in games, and that is how we are going to get points out of this division. But yeah, before then, it's going to be a while. Like Luke says, you know, January's around the corner, but we aren't going to be signing 5 or 6. It's going to be to add a couple of extra bodies. And also, I mean, I picked up this with Rich the other day, like the amount of games we've got between now and so Blackburn away is on January the 4th. So right at the start of the transfer window, in that time we've got to go to Portsmouth, got to play Oxford at home. You know, we've got some really big, important games against sides that are either below us or around us in the table that we have to get something from. So even with the depleted squad, Mark, Nathan knows he needs to find a way. I just can't see what that way is on Saturday. You know, who's going to play left wing back if we play the 3-5-2? Who's going to play up front? You know, because we ain't scoring goals. Like I'm finding it really hard to picture exactly how we're going to do it on Saturday. And I'm going to put you on the spot and tell me how it is.
Yes, we're going to play a new formation. We're going to play 5-5-5, and hopefully we'll be able to keep it tight. You know, hold up a joker card. It's difficult because Birmingham at home. You know, I remember. You know, we used to go there and win, but Birmingham now a bit of a different beast. I think last season they steamrolled everybody, and I think they've had a bit of a wake-up call this season. But they've got some very good quality players in there, and like I say, and he does like to play Davis. He does like to play a very high impact, high tempo game, and it's quite hard to take a sting out of that. So I think, you know, we've said before about the problem is that the ball's just coming back so fast. It's just not sticking anywhere. And we're constantly seeing what we're putting on the back foot, and defenders are just making challenges and blocks and everything. And you cannot do that for 90 minutes against the quality that team possesses. I mean, it's been said, you know, square pegs, round holes, deck chairs on the Titanic. It is difficult until we can get some players in. It's solidity. Again, I know it's only a week, and you might say, well, Roussillon, you know, hasn't had any match game, but he is an experienced player, might make that defence, and means Macca's not going to be panicking so much. Cross Ramsey's more comfortable on the right side with Bree, and then you can deal with it that way. Stifle it, even if you just go up one up front and then just try and build through the midfield. Don't keep trying to hit it long. As you know, I think I'd bring in Anderson, I'd bring in Fuller, but then again, I agree with some people in the chat who say, you know, their energy off the bench was good, but I think with Anderson's first tackle on Tuesday night showed the intent. I like Berry. I think he's a thoughtful player. But I don't think there's anyone really who can say they've done enough to say I'm a definite starter. I thought Apter, when he came on, he didn't have to defend because he was just told, look, we need to get a goal back. So he was up a lot higher when he got the ball, much more attacking. I think if he starts, he's going to be told, don't go crazy forward, which negates his abilities. It's the kind of thing you need a magic 8 ball to shake it and find out who you think they'll be playing, because I don't think any of us could get the 11 now. So, with Hernandez being out, there's another option gone.
Yeah, backup goalie's gone as well now, isn't it? John Morrell said, that's a joke, by the way, it's not that funny. John Morrell, who's our friend from Birmingham from last season, says, I believe our only left back is rated 50-50. So it could be Jack Robinson in there, which is a problem area. The only difference this season for us is that we go for teams at home. Yeah, because the game up there last year was a strange one. Like, they beat us 1-0, and it always felt like they never really got out of second gear, and we just couldn't lay a glove on them last year. Although obviously we did beat them at home. Tom, striker-wise, Tanto, Leeburn, TC, pick 2 from 3.
It's probably going to be TC and Miles again. TC, I don't know if I'm going to get to the end of this season and have made up my mind on him at all. There's times where I think he looks like one of the greatest players I've ever seen, and then there's times where I look like he's not even a footballer, like genuinely worse than I would be. So it's a strange one, but Nathan clearly trusts him and puts confidence in him. And like, even on Tuesday night, where I was one of the critical ones, and I still stand by it, particularly around that challenge. He then in the second half had a couple of moments where he gets all the crowd on his feet and he gets Boro defenders running back towards their own goal, which they don't want to do. I don't know. I agree with Mark about Apter, and obviously when he came on, he had no defensive duties. TC's role is all about pulling wide, and he's not really a forward. So could you play Apter instead of TC right up there and just get him to drag wide and then put crosses in for Leeburn or Tanto maybe, and then you still keep Bree as a right wing back and Roussillon as a left wing back, and then you've still got the 3. That might work. If you can play Ramsey on the right hand side of the defence with Apter as a wing back, then you've sort of got cover as a right back because Ramsey can sort of fade out. So there's options, but I think, and in fact, Spamfish is, oh no, it was not, sorry. Sam Cutts has just said it there about Miles and TC. Whoever striker, it's going to annoy us because really we want Kelman and we want Godden. Godden, we don't know what he's like at this level, but Kelman, it's not like Kelman scored goals, right? But these 3 are just annoying us at the moment. And largely they're annoying us because they're not impacting games. That's the truth of it. But we're going to have to pick one of them, and one of them's going to have to pick this game up by the scruff of the neck. But it goes back to the laziness and the attitude in that first half, because I was ready for him to haul Miles and TC at half time, and he didn't. And to be fair to them, they did up their intensity in the second half, but that's the least we expect from these players. So they're in for a tough game, as Mark and Sue have said. This is a difficult place to go. They're 4th in the league for their home form, 21st for their away, I think. So their home form is excellent. So we're going to have to work our asses off, and they're going to have to suck that up. It's going to be cold. It's going to be miserable, and it's going to be a hard game, but you're getting paid a lot of money to do something that people want to do. So go out there, put a shift in, and if we lose 1-0, but we've worked hard, fair enough. But if you play like you did on Tuesday night in the first half, that's not excusable. So yeah, difficult. I don't think I've answered your question. I think it'll probably be TC and Miles, but I'd quite like to see Apter up there and just see what he could do in that sort of winger. I don't know what the role is that TC does, but that anyway.
Yeah, TC says, Humble Chop said TC should only come on late in games against tired legs. Spamfish says that TC is still the player opposition defenders fear the most. That's why Nathan doesn't drop him. Gary would like to see Apter for TC. As you said there, Kevin says Tanto, Leeburn, Tanto to get onto the flick-ons. Spamfish talk about Mbick as well, obviously out doing well. Dan Carney's got another goal at the moment as well. Luke said he thought that Tanto and Miles worked quite well together in the last 20 minutes of Tuesday's game. Right, let's leave it there. We didn't get a chance to talk about the FA Cup draw, but Chelsea at home, obviously quite an exciting one. Maybe we'll talk about that a little bit more on Sunday. But for now, massive thanks to everyone who's joined us on the chat this evening. Thanks for all your comments. Sue, Tom and Mark, a pleasure as always.
Cheers.
Thanks all.
Yeah, Bob.
Lovely stuff. Don't forget charltonlive.etsy.com for your mugs, and make sure you subscribe to our. I'm not calling you mugs. I'm saying get some mugs. It sounded like I just went charltonlive.etsy.com. Your mugs, doesn't it? But yeah, there you go. Mark's a mug. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss Sunday's show. That's going to be 10 a.m. On YouTube when we'll look back at the game against Birmingham. Right, this is Charlton Live, sponsored by PSF Steel. Thanks for your time. We'll see you again on Sunday.
What do you reckon, Colin?